Okay, good afternoon. I think we've got pretty much everybody that was in the waiting room has been let in, and we are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Brigadier General Retired Mike Oster. I'm the Army Rep for the Retired Separated Caucus. You're going to meet Major General April Vogel here shortly, who is the new Air Rep for the Retired Separated Caucus. Just a couple of administrative things and reminders as we get started into our second virtual meeting with the Retired Separated Caucus. If you want to jump on and say something or add some value to the meeting, we would ask that you throw something into the chat and let us know that you want to talk, or you can raise your hand using the tools that are on the Teams system here, just so we can kind of keep from talking over each other and that kind of thing. If you're not presenting or talking, we just remind you to make sure that your microphone is muted. You can have your camera on or off. That's completely up to you. And we just want you to be here and take the information that's being put out, but also provide some feedback as well, particularly when we get into the part where we're going to have an update from Generals Dornbos and Kelly, and they're going to talk about what they're doing with the Strategic Planning Committee, which I think is going to be great. We're going to hear from our President, Major General Retired McGinn, and we've got some other things on the agenda, a little update on the plan for the conference and what we're going to do there. So we've got a lot to get through, and we've allocated an hour and a half here. I don't know that it will take quite that much time, but we wanted to have time to both put information out and get information back. And this is just an attempt to try to get more engagement and more opportunities for our retired separated folks to continue to provide value to this great organization. We know there's a lot of people out there that want to stay engaged, and so that's what we're trying to do is provide that opportunity. And I think with the agenda that we have, and at the end, we'll have an opportunity for just kind of an open forum and closing comments and questions and that kind of thing. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I am excited to introduce the replacement. Brigadier General Retired Bobby Dornbos was elected as the secretary for NGAUS. She was the previous Air Retired and Separated Rep. When she got elected to the secretary's position, of course, she vacated that. We had several highly qualified applicants on the air side to backfill her and fill that position. And it's been an honor to just get to know Major General Retired April Vogel over the last few months, and she was selected by the board to take on that position. And she's already jumping in and incredibly engaged in it. And so I'm honored to turn the microphone and the camera over to her right now to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself and why she wants to be involved in this organization in this role. So April, take it away.
All right, thanks, Mike. Hello, everybody, and thanks for the chance to say a few words. I'm extremely honored to have this opportunity to sit in the seat. I know following Bobby Dornbos is a big deal, and I have incredibly big shoes to fill. I know she's got really big shoes, but I'm excited to be here. Just a couple of highlights. I am a proud Maryland Guardsman. I'm one of those guardsmen who had the opportunity to go back and forth between my state and the National Guard Bureau several times over my career. I was in the position, I was in the Guard for 33 and a half years before I retired back in March of 2024. So just a little bit over a year I've been retired. And I had the opportunity to finish up my career as the legislative liaison for the chief of the National Guard Bureau. And that role gave me a unique insight into the way that both people, policy, and politics all come together at the highest of levels. And that was a really unique insight that I had. And so since retiring, I've continued serving the military community as the Vice President of Government Relations for the military officers. I'm sorry? Okay, for the Military Officers Association of America, where I advocate on behalf of the currently serving members who are retirees and their families across all components, to include the Coast Guard, NOAA, and the United Public Health Service. So I do have a unique perspective from the legislative side of the House, as well as all of my time in uniform. And I really wanted to be a part of the board of directors here at NGAUS because I really do believe that as a retiree community, we've got an untapped wealth insight that the Guard still needs. You know, we have a population of people who've been retired for a long time and a group of folks who haven't been retired for a long time. And I think we're a force to be reckoned with. We have a strategic force in our own right. And I think we have a lot to offer the National Guard as a whole. And, you know, a lot of us have had second careers in industry, government, as well as advocacy. And so I really was excited to be a part of what the National Guard can do for NGAUS, with NGAUS, and on behalf of the retired population. And so I think that we can really benefit from the cumulative experience that we all have. And I want to make sure that the retiree perspectives aren't just represented, but also influential. And so I'm honored to represent you in that capacity for as long as I get to. And I hope that I can earn your trust while I'm in this position. And I welcome your ideas and your inputs while I'm sitting here. And so I thank you for your time. I really do look forward to working with you all. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of my time to introduce our guest speakers today. As I think several of you probably know, and maybe if you don't, you're going to get a lot more tonight. We have a team, a very strong team of Brigadier General retired Bobby Doravas and Brigadier General retired Maria Kelly working on the NGAUS strategic plan. And tonight they have been so gracious to join us and talk a little bit about what they've been working on and give you an overview of the work that's going into the NGAUS strategic plan. Kind of talk a little bit about that and the importance of the retiree engagement and your advocacy, and then give you some opportunities to not only ask questions, but where your involvement could be value added. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the mic to Bobby and Maria. And again, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm excited to work with you. Bobby, Maria, over to you.
All right. Thank you, April. And hello to everybody who's joining us online. Really appreciate your being here and I guess being involved and interested in what I realize is not typically the most exciting conversation topic, that of strategic planning. But we do hope to make this interactive, and because the point of this is for us to garner some information from you to help us with our strategic planning efforts. So let me begin to advance the slides here. Okay. And also just want to make sure, I think Maria is on the screen, and welcome to my co-chair, Maria Kelly, who's been a huge part of this as the co-chair. Here's the deal. The last time that NGAUS did a strategic plan was over 10 years ago. It was in 2014, and as you can probably imagine, much has changed between 2014 and now. We have a new administration with a very, different perspective. A lot of technology changes. The nature of conflict has changed in terms of, back then it was very much non-state actors, and now we're entering into near-peer conflict. Economic and fiscal realities, case in point, we were in GWAT before where it was raining money, and now we're in a Doge environment where everything is shrinking radically. So the economic and fiscal realities have changed radically, and the way we communicate with each other has also changed. For the longest time, we were very focused. We NGAUS were focused on magazines and emails, and now we're very much shifting into social media, podcasts, etc. So we have to change with the times, and we recognize that. And 10 years is a long time to go without a strategic plan. So it is definitely time that we get after that. So the objective here is to create a comprehensive short, medium, and long-term strategic plan that basically reiterates what our vision and our mission is, which is to be America's strongest advocate for promoting the highest levels of relevance, readiness, modernization, and quality of life for our National Guard family. Back in November, the board voted to create this committee. Maria and I began to look across the board and find people who were good at strategic planning, had deep knowledge of it, and that also gave us a diverse representation across ranks, across regions, and across capabilities. And this is the group, the small group of our committee members, all of whom have been fantastic. You may know some of the folks that are on this list. we're following a pretty strategic, a pretty general, traditional strategic planning process. These always start with a relook at your vision, mission, and values. So we did that, and we're still working on that, actually. Then we moved into a SWOT analysis. We had a full one-day SWOT exercise with the NGAUS staff. And now we're sort of still in the midst of this environmental scan, and particularly the stakeholder analysis, of which you, the retirees, are a big part of that. Once we've completed that stage, we're going to move into the goal setting, establishing our priorities, and from those setting goals and objectives, and then eventually the initiatives for how we're going to get after that. So this first part of the strategic planning process is what we're really focused on right now, and then we're going to turn it over to the NGAUS staff to move into the implementation of the strategic plan. As part of our stakeholder analysis, we've actually done a lot of work. We've done a ton of interviews with congressional members and staff, with our senior statesmen, with all of the NGAUS directors as part of that, that prep for the SWOT exercise. We've also done a bunch of surveys. We've surveyed the NGAUS folks, the state association leaders, industry members as part of the CAP, the NGAUS board of directors, the NGAUS staff, our general membership, which we're going to talk about here shortly, warrant officers and CGOs, as well as, like I mentioned, the NGAUS staff exercise, NGAUS and CAP. So a lot of interactive interviews that have been really interesting. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Maria to just give you a really quick overview of one of those surveys, which was the biggest one, and that had to do with interviewing the membership. So over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Bobby. We're really fortunate on the committee to have a postgraduate doctoral candidate in strategic planning on the committee. Chief Emmanuel Medina, who is with the Puerto Rico National Guard, helped us put together a quantitative survey for an initial look and finding, kind of to get the temperature from the membership in certain areas. We did that in two separate surveys because he felt pretty strongly, as the warrant officer representative, that we break that out into commissioned officers and warrant officer questions. In order to make this survey significant and to have findings that are, I guess, coherent, we needed a total of a total of 195 respondents. We had 237 respondents to the survey, broken down into 212 commissioned officers and 25 warrant officers. The focus areas were on the value of membership, barrier, engagement barrier, satisfaction, and recommendation. And these were some of the findings. If you want to advance forward there, Bobby, I totally forgot I didn't have control of this.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry.
Okay,
There you go.
All right. So, the sample size was justified and within a margin of error of 7%. Of the population that we attempted to survey was 40,000 NGAUS members who we sent this out to. And as I mentioned, we exceeded the required sample size to make this statistically valid. Next slide, please. A few of our key findings for the commissioned officer survey. There was a very considerable high satisfaction rate of 3.8 out of 5 on the scale that we measured. And there were several top values, but the highest scored value item that people valued was for their membership was the legislative advocacy that NGAUS provides. The next highest, I think, was professional development and education. And again, that was just slightly less, but still significant to us. Likelihood to renew from those that responded was a 4.2 out of 5. And then cost of membership was not generally seen as a barrier for the commissioned officers. For the warrant officers, the key finding, the satisfaction rating was a little bit lower than for the commissioned officers. And then the top reason that people joined, or warrant officers joined, that responded, was for the advocacy, just like the commissioned officers, but it was a higher preponderance of that answer, 50%. And one of the, I guess, items that was noteworthy was that the engagement of the warrant officer population was limited, predominantly due to time and perceived awareness and perception of the association membership. And the opportunity that was noted out of this particular group was that dedicated forums or offerings for the warrant officers could provide better inclusion opportunities within NGAUS. And finally, I guess some overall recommendations or insights rather is that advocacy was in both surveys the leading membership, seen as the leading membership value. Strong correlation between renewal and referrals. Communication effectiveness, there was a strong correlation there for between communication and awareness and actual engagement. And then finally, the insight that warrant officers need something a little bit more tailored towards their areas of interest and needs.
Okay, thank you so much, Maria. Again, that was just one of the surveys. That was the membership one. A lot of other surveys that garnered a lot of great data and input and opportunities that we'll talk about in just a little bit. One thing I just really wanted to start out with is just sort of this recognition of the life cycle of a guardsman in their career. So you have a typical career of a guardsman, which could last, I don't know, as short as 10 years, maybe as long as 35 years. But something that has occurred to us more recently is that, of course, the life cycle of a guardsman who is a member of NGAUS includes those retirement years. And on the upper side of that chart where it says NGAUS advocacy and benefits, perhaps the advocacy and benefits that NGAUS provides maybe a little more on during the typical career, during your active career, and that the width of that arrow may narrow a little bit as it gets closer to the end of your retirement, but there is still advocacy and benefits that NGAUS provides. And so part of this conversation is to pull from you as retirees how we can better serve you in terms of advocacy and benefits during your retirement years. But the other part that maybe is less well explored is that bottom arrow, which is in the member participation, which, depending on how aware you were of NGAUS and all of the ways to be involved while you were young as a CGO, is how do we begin to include you in our advocacy efforts and in providing the currently serving members with the benefit of your wisdom and your network and your involvement. And so maybe that line on the bottom starts out a little thinner. Maybe you were a task force representative or a NGAUS rep in one of the units. But I think what we'd love to do is to begin to grow the width of that arrow as you move into retirement so that we can actually leverage your interests, leverage your wisdom toward our advocacy and providing member benefits to those who are still currently serving. So I'd like you to kind of keep that in mind as we go through these slides to kind of cue your interest and maybe your creativity in thinking about ways that you as a retiree may be interested in becoming more involved in NGAUS during your retirement years. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Maria, who's going to give you just a quick description of the oral history project to help you kind of hear from others who are thinking similarly about wanting to continue to be fulfilled in their retirement years. So Maria, over to you.
Thank you again, Bobby. So the NGAUS Oral History Project, you may or may not be familiar with this, but over the last almost year, NGAUS embarked on this project in order to update our membership records and record the stories both orally in an audio recording as well as in print for a book that's being sold and provided to members who participated in this project. What it really provided us was actually just much more than that. What we can use these histories for in our archives is pretty unlimited because we have the consent of all the participants for the use of their stories. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of how this benefited us. And then one of the main findings, or what we think is a great connection to the strategic plan that we're working on right now. Over 10,000 interviews were conducted, and within that, we just had more than 8,000 updates, email addresses, phone numbers, physical addresses, duty status. We even found out that more than 700 of the people that we had recorded as members had since deceased. And so that was just a way to really have a good data hygiene, as we refer to it, to be able to connect with our members better. Obviously, it's good to have good contact information. With that, though, we were able to collect 1,750 stories that will actually be published in the book and available to those members for purchase on an audio link that they'll have. And again, these are available for NGAUS archives. These stories are, and they were pretty phenomenal. But the most interesting thing, I think, because I actually listened to almost all of these 1,750 stories, and I still do go back and listen from time to time, was the fact that overwhelmingly, the retired members, who made up at least half of the people who shared their stories, that overwhelmingly these retired members spoke about how they're either continuing to serve now in their communities or the National Guard specifically, or maybe how they desired to continue to serve and want to continue to help. So with that, I'm just going to share with you two quick stories just to give you an idea of the retirees that we're hearing from. And I would love to share the audio with you, but it's not all edited yet. So what I did was take extracts from their story. This amazing couple here served in the Guard. Both of them were either working in the Pentagon or near the Pentagon on 9/11, but found themselves fortunately outside of the Pentagon at the time of that the plane impacted the building. The story, as provided by the officer here, shows that he had an incredibly compelling, long career, a pretty amazing career. This is just part of his story, of course. But what really stands out to us is the fact that the significance of that his career had on him really helped to instill a sense of gratitude and a desire to continue to serve the country and to continue to provide service to his military brothers and sisters. So I share that with you just to give you an example. The next story comes from Colonel Cheryl Biggs, who's from the Mississippi Guard. And she decided to join the military when she was already older and established in her healthcare career. She obviously saw amazing value added to her civilian career from the military as well. And it has allowed her to continue her work in the nonprofit sector as a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, where she is actually able to continue to support veterans, first responders, law enforcement. And it's almost the perfect blend of that traditional soldier or airman who has that opportunity to have that collective, guard and civilian talents. She has taken that desire to want to continue to serve in the community. She took on the challenge of becoming a Republican nominee for Congress in her district. And she wants to continue to use whatever platform she has to continue to advocate for military and veterans. And so that desire continues there. That is has been just an amazing opportunity for us to really, it gives us great opportunity for us to kind of plug into the great talents that we have out there, but not just, to reach out for something transactional, but to actually reach out to people who are seeking opportunities to want to to help the National Guard. So I share that with you because the Oral History Project is an amazing project in itself, but provides us so much information in the Guard community for our strategic planning program as well.
Thank you so much, Maria. And yeah, those are just two examples. I know for myself, for Mike, for April, we all joined the board because we found great fulfillment and friendship and camaraderie with our Guard brothers and sisters. And that's one of the reasons that, we ran for the board and want to continue to stay engaged. I know that exists, that feeling exists in many, many, many of our retirees who remain active in NGAUS. And so we're just, looking for opportunities to engage you in other ways and to support you as members. So with that, as part of all of our efforts, the SWOT exercise with the staff, all of our interviews we've done, just like you could see, lots and lots of interviews. There's a lot of opportunities that NGAUS has available to it right now that we need to kind of capture and consolidate and prioritize and rack and stack and figure out where we can get the most bang for our buck as we create the strategic plan. But frankly, opportunities abound. And so as I kind of go through these, I'd love for you to think about both as a retiree, where you see opportunity and sort of what your goals may be in terms of membership benefits as a retiree, but also where you might be interested in contributing as a retiree with your experience and your wisdom and your passion. So that's what we'd like to pull out in the conversation as we move along. So some of the opportunities are not going to come as any kind of surprise. In order for NGAUS to perform its function with advocacy, membership, and education, we have to have the revenue. And right now we have a very, very small staff. So revenue is very important to offset the expenses, but also to grow, not for the sake of growth itself, because we're a nonprofit, right? We're not trying to grow just to make money. We're trying to grow so that we can better serve our stakeholders, our members, our constituency. So revenue, lots and lots and lots of different opportunities for revenue that I would love for you to think about and perhaps give us some ideas. There are a lot of nonprofits that have really unique and creative ways to generate revenue, and those are things that we would love to hear from you about. Obviously, like I mentioned, our communications are a little bit dated, and we recognize this. We're in a magazine, we have email, we do have social media, but we also have a studio that we've not really fully leveraged because, we don't have the staff to do that. So huge opportunities in perhaps starting a podcast, doing more virtual engagements like the one that we're doing today. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about any ideas you have there. Partnerships. This idea has come up on a number of occasions, particularly as it relates to our state partners. And how can we better leverage the various partners that we have as NGAUS to increase membership and to provide perhaps more programming that is more focused on the thing that makes us so unique, and that is these connections with state partners all around the world. So partnerships is a big one that we're wanting to draw some information from you on. Networking, lots of opportunities to network, grow our relationships before we need them in Congress, with staffers, with the Guard Bureau, with a whole variety of all of these partners that we're talking about, a lot of networking opportunities. And of course, the big one for today is this leveraging the retirees. We see that as such a growth area, and this is something that General Oster and General Vogel will continue to work actively on with you, is how we can better leverage your talents, your wisdom, your passion, etc. A lot of opportunities in perhaps improving the General Conference. General Oster is also chairing the conference committee, so we'd love to hear any thoughts that you have about improvements that would be valuable. A lot of opportunities in growing our membership, better engaging those folks that aren't currently members, but that are potential members, and how do we generate more interest, more knowledge about the benefits that NGAUS could bring to those. One of our subcommittees and two members of our committee are actually CGOs, and man, these guys are on fire. The CGOs are so passionate and energetic. They've got such big ideas. And guess what? CGOs are sort of the future, of course, of the organization. So lots and lots of opportunities to engage with CGOs, provide them with educational benefits, professional development benefits that could potentially be in partnership with our retirees. So I mentioned professional development, a lot of opportunity in events and offerings. We have this beautiful building on Pennsylvania Avenue, just right next to the Capitol, right next to Union Station, super convenient in the heart of downtown DC. There is so much opportunity in that building in hosting breakfast, in-person breakfast that could be live cast through virtual engagements like this to you, our members. And that space as a rental space or as a venue for other events, lots of opportunity there. Kind of back to professional development, in hand goes education in general. We have a lot of opportunity and need, quite frankly, to begin to or better educate Congress, staffers, people who don't understand the Guard or our mission or how it is that we operate or the history behind our militia heritage, educating local communities for how they can support their local state associations and local guardsmen. Just ample opportunities for education in all different realms. I mentioned the building. And then another one that we see as a huge opportunity is to really start to gather best practices and lessons learned from state associations and spread those around so that we can elevate the state associations, because our success actually depends on the success of those state associations, the boots on the ground in the states themselves. So those are just some of the opportunities. Would love to hear your thoughts about any other opportunities that you see as well. From a threats perspective, again, I go back to a lack of education. Lawmakers, staffers are making big decisions about the Guard and funding the Guard and equipping the Guard and benefits for the Guard without an understanding of the Guard. And so we see that as actually a big threat that we need to attack and get after. Another threat is that our corporate partners don't really understand the funding process for the National Guard, and that impacts their support in the form of sponsorships and getting involved. And so that's a threat. Again, this current day and age, DOGE and just the current time is diminished and unreliable funding. NGAUS revenue not keeping up with our current expenses and not certainly allowing us the ability to grow at the pace that we would like to in order to get after some of this education, professional development, and benefits. I mentioned that a threat is that we have to rely on state associations for our success. I mentioned that we have a very small staff, some of whom are double and triple tasked, which makes it difficult for us to grow beyond what we're currently doing, particularly in communications and trying to get after some of these new age social media podcast type things. One thing that also came up was the word militia right now tends to have more of a negative connotation. And so that was a threat that's been mentioned in a couple of different forums. So those are the threats. To start with this whole process, we really have to make sure that our priorities are the correct ones. The historical priorities of NGAUS have traditionally been our highest priority, which is advocacy, of course. That's sort of the umbrella priority for us, but also membership and also education. But we're also starting to see a theme that perhaps there is a fourth option for priorities that we should think about, and that is in that realm of partnerships, particularly the SPP partners, but potentially other partnerships as well that can help us generate goals. And so I just kind of wanted to throw this cascade chart up there to show you why priorities are so important, and it is because from those priorities, cascades down the big long-term North Star goals that we're trying to get after, which then further cascades to sort of these near-term objectives and eventually the actions of the staff. That is how we determine where our time and effort is best spent in service to some of the goals underneath those higher level priorities, which is why it's really important that we get those priorities right. And if there needs to be an additional one, we want to make sure that we identify. Okay, so now this is the point in time where I would love to start to engage you in a conversation. And we've kind of geared these along the lines of the priorities. So we'll start with advocacy. And if you could, you're welcome to raise your hand if you want to speak to this, but I would love to have Michael be able to capture in the comments any thoughts that our participants have, so that we can make sure that we're capturing all of this information. But the first question is, besides lawmakers, what other agencies, departments, organizations can NGAUS leadership engage to influence the success of the National Guard? And I'll just kind of pause here. Mike, April, General McGinn, if you have any thoughts and you want to chime in, we'd love to sort of hear your thoughts about this in terms of advocacy. We got to tell our story to Congress and to state lawmakers. Are there any other agencies, departments, or organizations where we need to influence in order to be more successful in our advocacy role?
Well,
Capital Summit. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think the usual suspects. I think the VA is certainly an agency that's important to us as a body. In particular, our retiree community. The VA is very important and should be aware of and consider the uniqueness that National Guard retirees need to be considered, especially in this environment. So I would say that's one agency that we should be considering and speaking with.
Great point. I see Governor's Council in the chat, and yeah, that's a great one. That one actually has come up, but thank you for reiterating that. Yeah, AUSA, ROA, NGAUS, the Air Force Association. This is another one where NGAUS actually used to have a forum, like they were sort of a convening authority that brought these groups together to have regular conversations where these groups could share priorities and understand where they're aligned and get everybody's messaging straight. So those are great suggestions as well, John. And feel free to just continue adding to the chat. We're going to capture all of this hopefully and save the chat so that we can call your suggestions. We do work with the National Governors Association, Council of Governors, but can strengthen those. Yep. Thanks, General McGinn. Great point. All right, just to keep this moving, because I know we're short on time, I'm just going to keep moving along here. As retired members, what are some ways that we can influence National Guard priorities? And by that, we mean, how can we include you in our influence operations? Where do you see opportunities or things that you might be interested in as retirees to assist us in that goal, that advocacy role? Oh, yep, I see the military coalition.
Yeah, and we may, you may already be participating in some of these ways. So please just jump right in and share that if you would in the chat. Or feel free to raise your hand if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and Michael, I can only see the first page of the people. So hopefully if there's a hand raised, it pops to the top to the first page. Okay, yeah, VFW, you're right. Yeah, VSOs, MSOs, the VFW, American Legion. The MOAA, yes. Good one. Good thing we have you on the board, April, to help us with that. Okay.
Hey, one of the things, sorry, Bobby, one of the things we talked about on this particular slide with the National Guard priorities and engagement, where we really think the retiree community could be very effective, is with the congressional members in their local districts. You know, when they're going home for their meetings and they're doing those kind of things, keeping our retirees engaged, because they probably knew those people before they were representatives and senators and that kind of thing. And so getting them actively involved in their own districts, in their states, but making sure that they have the information so that they're kind of armed, for lack of a better word, with a consistent message of what we're trying to do with NGAUS.
Yeah, you know what? That's an excellent point. We, NGAUS, are more at the federal level, but where we could really use some help, and the state associations as well, is in leveraging our retirees, to your point, at the state level with state representatives, state associations as well. So that's great.
Well, and just to kind of chime in there, I think what Mike was speaking about too, Bobby, was the need to engage with federal legislators at home in their home districts.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Maria.
actually been an opportunity that we're starting to recognize is it's so hard to get the ear of people here in DC when they're here in Washington. Trying to get their ear when they're at home may be a little bit easier, and trying to interact with them at home may be an easier sell. Yep, Corey, telling your story across the board as a retiree, that's super helpful. Okay, see, instead of considering the word militia a threat, how about treating it as an opportunity to educate about what a militia really is, the history, and how the word positively applies? Excellent, excellent point. And in fact, we see a lot of opportunity for that specific type of education out of our retirees, maybe to schools, to student organizations, to our CGOs, CGO groups. In helping the state level organizations familiar with the DSLO and their quality of life issues. Okay, great. Thanks, Skip. And here's the thing, this is really just kind of meant to generate creative ideas and to get you thinking about ways that you might be interested in participating and helping. And, you know, we'd love to capture that data from you, whether it's here in the chat or Maria and I will have our emails at the end of this, and you're welcome to reach out or call or engage General Oster and General Vogel as the retiree chairs. So appreciate that. Okay, moving along, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going a little slow here, so let's just keep going. We're also interested in understanding what you value the most out of your NGAUS membership as retirees right now. Where do you see the most personal benefit? And perhaps even where would you like to see more benefit? What would you be looking for in order to improve the value of membership for you? Advocacy, yeah. Yeah, just feel free to keep dumping it in the chat as I roll through these questions, because I know we're getting close to time here. Yeah, so as a retiree, what other benefits could we provide you that would add value? And folks, we're gonna send out the video of this, and we can also include the slides. If anybody's interested in reviewing these and checking out the questions and responding later, that would be great. All right, over to membership. The questions we had are, what talents or relationships do you as retiree members have that would add value to currently serving members? And some of the ideas that we came up with were perhaps we create pools that are communities of interest, where you as a retiree have an interest in advocating for a particular issue or have knowledge about a certain subject that may be helpful to General McGinn as the president, or to NGAUS writ large, perhaps even being included on a list of speakers, like a speakers bureau. Maybe NGAUS has a speakers bureau that you put your name and your topic, the thing that you're an expert on, that you'd be willing to speak out, whether it's at the national conference, whether it's at a state conference. Maybe you would be volunteering to moderate a virtual panel that we have on that subject. You could bring in experts that are familiar with that. Hosting these virtual forums for NGAUS members. Those are the kinds of things that we're curious if you might be interested in participating with something like that. I see being able to continue to contribute is very fulfilling. Membership ambassadors. Ooh, I like that. That's a good one. Great idea. All right, moving along. How do you currently receive your info? This is just kind of curious from the retiree perspective in consuming information. We have the magazine, we have emails, we have the Washington Weekly, or the Washington Report, which is the weekly report. We have the NGAUS News Digest, which is a daily encapsulation of the news stories that impact the Guard. And of course, we have some social media. We were curious to kind of understand how you as retirees consume your data, what you sort of favor and what you're interested in terms of communicating with you, the retirees. So I'll give that just a couple of seconds. And then along those same lines, what other channels might you be interested in? i.e., are you interested in podcasts on topics that relate to the National Guard? Might you be interested in podcasts that look at world events that include highlighting strategic partners? There's a lot going on in the world right now. Perhaps we could bring in a podcast with a state and an embassy representative from their state strategic partner to talk about world events. So podcasts are an idea. Anybody else happy to take your inputs here? Get them all, read them all. Corporate subject matter expertise. Yeah. The hardest thing at the state level is convincing younger officers and warrant officers of the importance. Agree on podcasts. Okay. Great. Okay. And I'm so sorry that we just don't have a lot of time to engage. And again, if you have something to say, feel free to raise your hand as well. And then the next one is education. And this is something we're really interested in, is what potential opportunities do you see in the education realm that retirees could be involved in? And you mentioned some of these, but professional development is one. Perhaps using your network in your previous life in educating Congress, educating staffers, educating local community. There are a lot of local community groups that are interested in supporting the military. Some states have created private foundations that collect funding, that do funding drives, and then use that to support the state associations like CGOs, and getting enough funding to send them to pay for their airfare and their hotel when they go to the national conference. So educating the community and engaging in that way in a community that you're already familiar with and that's familiar with you, educating members and potential members about the benefits of National Guard Association membership, and then of course professional development. Yes, John, you are so right. Many of the CGOs have no idea what NGAUS is, and that's definitely some education that's an opportunity for us that we're definitely wanting to get after. Yeah, just keep the comments coming while I buzz through these last couple slides. And then the final one is the question mark. Do we need an additional priority that's titled partnerships? We'd love your thoughts on what other partnerships NGAUS could benefit from. Where could we create some goals and objectives and activity around partnerships that would be valuable to NGAUS, to our advocacy efforts, and also to our members? State Partnership Program was one that came up, collaboration with VSOs, MSOs, partnering with NGAUS and Team Godzilla, NGBLL, governmental organizations, state and local communities. We even talked about military museums and archives, being able to kind of leverage those to make sure that we're doing a great job educating about our history. Okay. What partner organizations or groups do you belong to or participate in that could benefit NGAUS's mission? And again, I'm gonna try to wrap this up. Okay, almost final slide was other thoughts. And I know, like I said, we're short on time, so I'd appreciate it if you have any other thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to interview you if you're willing to do a one-on-one with us. If you'd love to just contribute some thoughts and ideas, we would love to have that. Just to really quickly wrap up, it's a fairly long effort. We were tasked in November. We started in January. We're hoping to provide a draft strategic plan to the board by November. So we are sitting here today, June 26th, kind of in the midst of our stakeholder review, beginning to refine our vision, mission, values, and priorities, and begin to establish those goals with the eye on completing a draft by November. So that's sort of our timeline. And with that, this is, if you want to take a picture, you're welcome to do that. These are our contact emails. as well as General Oster and General Vogel. We'd love for you to communicate with them. And with that, I will wrap up with questions and say thank you so much for giving us this time. Really appreciate it. Wish we could have had just a little more back and forth, but hey, thanks again. Over.
Well, Bobby and Maria, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing in this lane right now. And obviously, there's still much work to be done, but you guys have done so much work already, and even just your preparation for this meeting to come. I just want to make sure people understand that while that felt a little rushed, and maybe there's more out there, continue to put things in the chat if you've got thoughts right now. But the communication opportunity here was, we wanted everybody to see what was going on in the strategic planning realm, because the organization that we've all been a part of for many, many years needs to shift as we go forward. And as they're doing that, we have the opportunity to be primary contributors to what that looks like in the future. The idea today was not to actually do strategic planning. It was to expose what's going on and make sure we're all on the same page. The opportunity going forward now is you have Maria and Bobby's contact information. You should have April and Mai's information. If you don't, you can go to the NGAUS website. There is a way to get information to the people that need to have it so we can continue this. And we absolutely 1000% want this community to engage in this. We've seen the past. We know that we need to shift, and we are as much the future as the company grade officers. In fact, I would submit to you that today, organization beyond the timing of some of our company grade officers, because they won't stay, and that's just a product of how things are going. So we are the past and the future is my submission to you today. So wanted you to get exposed to this. Maria, Bobby, thank you so much for all the work you're doing on this and for taking the time to do that. With that, I'm going to shift to the next thing that's on the agenda, and that is kind of a state of NGAUS update from our current president, Major General Retired Frank McGinn. Frank's been in the chair now for a little while and just does a fantastic job. Huge advocate for NGAUS, big supporter of the retiree and separated community. And why? Because he is in the retiree and separated community. So with that, General McGinn, I'll turn it over to you for your comments. And thank you for being here, sir. We appreciate that.
Hey, great. Thanks, Mike. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Great to be with you. It's a great opportunity for me, honestly, just to be able to address you for a little bit. And more importantly, take your questions either in chat or put a hand up. But first, let me say thanks to Mike and really started with Bobby, now April. And this is no indictment on other retired reps on the board, but when they ran for the position, they said they're going to, really get the outreach to the retiree community and do things like this. And they're obviously delivering on that promise. So this is just great stuff, honestly. And then when I applied for this job about a year and a half ago, about 18 months into it, the two things I wanted to really focus on. One was the budget. I was concerned that we were spending more than we were bringing in revenue, and two was we hadn't had a strategic plan in a long time. And those of you out there that don't know, I was on the board for about 15 years as a director, and I was one of the authors of the old strategic plan. And I can tell you categorically that paled in comparison on what Bobby and Maria are doing. So I applaud the chairman, Paul Rogers, for appointing them as co-chairs. They're crushing it, and I'm excited about it. We're engaged as a staff, and we'll own it as a staff, as Bobby mentioned, and I look forward to it. I see some real exciting things for NGAUS. We're really just going to be a different organization than we have been for a long time, in the ways of strategic thinking and podcasts and communicating and how we do that. It's going to be a journey, don't get me wrong, but we're on the right path, and your input is absolutely crucial to what we're going to do there. It was talked about other quarterly MSOs, and I know April's going to cringe when I say this, but I meet quarterly with AUSA, AFA, the Marine Corps League, and the Navy League, and we probably need to expand that into MOA and probably ROA as well. But I met with them literally yesterday. We had our latest meeting to talk about world events, what's going on, some real candid discussions and some confidential discussions too. So they've got access into the senior active duty leadership that I don't have, and they're pretty forthcoming with what's going on in the world these days and what's going on in the Pentagon these days. So I get a lot out of that. I glean a lot out of that, and we come back and get our ledge team working on our priorities. Also just came back from NGAUS. It's another entity that we work very well with, the Adjutants General Association. What I did, actually Tracy, and this started with Maria, we give them a report card on their membership strength and what it will take them to get to the next level and achieve their annual goals in increasing membership strength. So I continue to beat the drum on membership anytime I get. If you've been to a conference that I've been to, I pound leadership. And I'm going to, at the end of my comments here, I'm going to implore on you to kind of help us in that effort as well, if you could work with us on that. So I'll get into a little, lately what's been going on here. Have sent forward a lot of posture hearing questions to friends of ours up on the Hill to try to get our message out there, our requirements out there in the posture hearings. Now you don't get a lot out of those sometimes, but at least you get them on the record saying something. So we get some good Space National Guard conversation up there, some healthcare for all just recently. Senator Baldwin out of Wisconsin actually had the Sec Army and Chief of Staff of the Army commit to working with her on healthcare for our troops. Now, is that going to get across the finish line with this administration? Not sure. However, we got them on the record now. And where that's important is last year when I met with the Chief of Staff of the Army, General George 101, he told me he couldn't support that face to face. And he was blunt, but candid about it. But now we have on the record saying he's going to support the senator. So I think that's all good. So we'll continue to work that and work what we get out of those hearings. The Space National Guard, we're not quitting on this. I sent a letter to the president about a week ago, a joint letter signed by myself representing NGAUS and General Fran Evon representing NGAUS, urging him to come kind of full circle on his promises at our conference last year of establishing that. We're going to keep swinging until we're knocked down and can't get up anymore. It's an uphill battle, no doubt, but there is legislation out there pending, and I have the bills somewhere. I'll get them. But if you could encourage you're going to see a right to Congress come out in the next couple of days. We're just beta testing it, make sure it's going to work, and we're going to encourage all of our membership to do those couple of mouse clicks that'll send that automatic letter to their delegations. And I think we're going to add the president on that as well. Encouraging them to pass that legislation, creating a Space National Guard. It is the absolute common sense right thing to do. And if you don't know this, in 2021, the Secretary of the Air Force and submitted a memo to Congress with their recommendations. And that recommendation was a two-component system. It was an active duty Air Force with a full and part-time structure that they're advocating for now, and a Space National Guard for surge capacity. Now, somewhere between 2021 and 2023, that got upside down. And I think it was when a new secretary came in and they discarded the recommendation of 100 subject matter experts that recommended a two-component system. So we're trying to blow life back into that report and get Congress to understand that was recommended to them back in the day. And really nothing's changed other than they want control. They don't like dealing with governors. And it's all nothing more than a control thing. And other services are looking at this too. So this is truly a threat to who we are as a National Guard and the sovereignty of our states. And that's why we're continuing to fight that. So enough of that on Space Guard. Army Transition Initiative. Literally, I mean, we are scrambling up here with a couple things. One is ATI, if you haven't heard of it, Army Transition Initiative, going a lot of transitioning from infantry brigade combat teams and armored brigade combat teams to this mobile brigade combat team that operates this infantry squad vehicle, which looks like a dune buggy, carries about 9 squad members. No armament on it, no up armor. I'm not convinced it's the right thing to do, and I know some members of Congress that we've talked to aren't convinced this is the right way to go either. But our NGB is working with the Army on this, and we're following in on it. But we're very, very suspect, and we're asking a lot of questions on where is the funding for turn-in of the armor equipment? Where is the funding for new equipment training? Where is the funding for training going forward? So we're watching the budget very closely and how they're working this through. I had this discussion with General Brown yesterday from AUSA. They've got really the same questions, to be honest, on this. So more to follow on that, but pay attention to it. If you see we're looking for some support and some advocacy from the field. That's what it'll be about. C-130Js, right now we're about 60% complete with modernization from the H model to J model, still working that. That's another platform that's in some sort of jeopardy. So we're paying attention to that. We had a champion that was Senator Tester. He's since retired. So we're trying to find a new champion up in the House or the Senate for that initiative. Fighter recap, there's legislation out there to push the Army to give us their plan for how they're going to recapitalize us. As you know, the A-10s are going away. F-16s are probably next. So we need to have a plan going forward on that. Those are kind of the big initiatives in that respect. I messed up here. I didn't introduce two members of our team. We've had some turnover up here, so I want to introduce two key members anyway. One is John Eisberg. John just retired out of NGB as an 06. He was here as and I'll let him introduce himself if he pops up on the net here. But he was here as a Army programs manager a long time ago. Got recruited to go to NGBLL, had a full career there. Now he's come back full circle to replace Mike Hadley as the Vice President for Government Affairs. So if he is there, let's see if he pops up.
Yeah, I'm on, boss.
Okay. If you want to give them a quick, minute or two on you, John, then I'm going to turn after him. I'm going to go to Eric Leckel. Eric is our new Chief of Staff. Retired about a year ago as an 06 out of Wisconsin. He just started next week. I'll go to him next, and I'll let them talk about their teams. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Hey, team. Sorry about, I don't have a camera up and running right now, but yeah. So as of 1 June, I've joined Frank as a retiree member as well. So I'm part of this group and glad to be here to support. Like Frank said, I was here 22 years ago as the Army lobbyist, and I was recruited by the Chief NGB. Went over to NGAUS, and I was a dirty Federale Title 10 AGR for the past 22 years. But I went over there for a reason, and that was to get better experience, to understand things a lot more. And I had the opportunity to do a lot of different jobs, which helps me in my current role now. And so I'm happy to be on board and look forward to supporting. We're going through a little change in the legislative department, so we've got some new personnel on board as well, and we're still looking for some. So once we get everybody on the ground, we'll hit the ground running. And so we're covering. We've got a lot of irons in the fire on the Hill right now, so we're kind of busy. But look forward to working with everybody.
All right, thanks, John. Eric, are you on board here?
I am, sir. So real quick, Eric Leckel, like the president said, I retired in March or February of 2024. I was a Title 32 AGR from Wisconsin. My last duty assignment was the commander of the 157th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, where we went over to Djibouti, and I was the Chief of Staff for Combined Joint Task Force Horn of Africa. So I'm excited to be here at NGAUS. I spent 3 different times on the board as a company grade representative, and then twice as the Area 5 Army representative. So I'm excited to be here. Wherever we can do to help and move the ball forward, just please reach out and let me know. And I will tell you, I took a year off after retiring, and then my leave slip was tore up by my wife, and it was time to get back to work. And so I picked up and moved out here to Washington, D.C. from a rural town in Wisconsin. So it's definitely been a great first month, and I look forward to working with everyone. Back over to you, sir.
All right, thanks, Eric. I just wanted to meet the 2 key members of the team here. As mentioned, there's been some other turnover, working through that, but the one thing I didn't realize is how busy this building was, and Maria can probably attest to that. She was here full time before she decided to retire back to Ohio. But this building hops. There's always something going on in it, which is a good thing. It's a good problem to have, and I'm proud to be leading the efforts here in DC. I will talk about a few more things. A couple of the upcoming events that I'll be working, just for your situation awareness. There'll be a roundtable with the Secretary of Defense and the Pentagon with military service organizations. That'll be the first time I'll get in front of him. So we'll queue up some hard questions for him. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. We have our summer board meeting coming up. Our board of directors will be in. Then we head to Milwaukee for the rehearsal of concept drill for the August conference. And then I'll head out to the NGAUS conference, and then obviously our conference in August. So that's the next couple of months, some busy times. I will talk, I'll tease out a couple of things on the conference. Mike, unless somebody else is going to do that, we're going to talk conference, or do you want me to just tease out a couple of the speakers that are coming and what our plan is?
Go ahead. I think Jim will maybe add a little bit, but if you want to tease some stuff out, that'd be fantastic. Thanks.
Okay. So right now we have the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs coming, General Kane, as we all know, is a former guardsman. So he's coming. We've got the Chief of Staff of the Army coming, General George. We've got General Rainey coming from the Army Futures Command. And we've got 2 panel discussions planned. One is going to be on Indo-PACOM and the China threat. It will provide an unclassified version of intel, what's going on there. And that's going to include PAC Army, PAC AF, and actually a spin of state partnership. Two of the state partnership states, I believe, that have partners in that region. And the other panel is going to be on UAS and county UAS. And this is a really I wouldn't say it's a new problem, but it's certainly a problem that's come to the forefront. And we're going to focus on our northern border. So we're going to have at least one tag from the northern states. I think Sean Menke's going to come on from Montana. We're trying to get a guy, and I think we're going to have him, who actually was an expat retiree, did some time in the service here, but went over and fought in Ukraine for 2 years. Is kind of like I don't know, was a mercenary, I guess, but was fighting with the Ukraine army. And he had a real experience of on the ground with these omnipresent, small, inexpensive drones are doing, and how they're wreaking havoc on the battlefield. Has really changed the nature of warfare. So if we get him on that panel, it's going to be a very interesting discussion as well. And that's going to be narrated by a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for NATO in Europe. So those are two things coming on. We're trying to get Secretary of the Air Force. Haven't got a confirmation from him yet, but working that. So those are kind of what we've got lined up so far. Trying to expand the Minuteman stage to get more content on that this year. And as you know, I'm trying to change the conference a little bit, and having Mike Oster now as the chair of the conference committee is just a perfect synergy with him there, with the strategic planning efforts going on. I think we're going to change the experience. So any input we can get from the retiree community is obviously crucial to those efforts. But I'm looking forward to it. Milwaukee's got a great plan. They're in good shape right now. I think it's going to be a great conference. I'll close with this before I open up to any questions or comments. Just where you can help. If you're not subscribed to us, please do. Please go on the website and subscribe to whatever you want to hear from. The Washington Report once a week on Tuesdays helps you keep in the know. You can subscribe to the Daily Digest if you really want to torture yourselves and get something in your inbox every day. But I read that every morning. It's just guard stories from across the 54. You don't have to click on it. You can just read the highlights. And then all of our social media, if you want to follow us we're on a bunch of stuff. I think Facebook, Flickr, Instagram, LinkedIn. So you pick the platform, and I'll guarantee we're on it. So I'd encourage you to do that. And then two other things, just encourage you to be active legislatively. You are like us. You can say what you want. You're not beholden to anybody anymore. Being a retiree gives you a lot of freedom. So please stay engaged on that with your codels. You vote. Your votes matter to them, and that's what matters. That gives us our strength. We're in every voting district in the country, so we need to really harness that strength. And then, as was mentioned earlier, please help push membership if you can. Be mentors to these young kids. Educate them on what the importance of it. All the other associations are great, but we're the only one, and you all know this, the only one that advocates just for the National Guard. So I'll say that. Thanks, Brew. Appreciate that. Brew's a mentor of mine as well, and thanks for the comment. But I'll open it up to questions either in the chat or by all means email me as well. I get good mail, I get hate mail. I'll take it all. It's all good communication as long as I'm hearing from the field what's going on. So I'm very thick-skinned. I can guarantee you that. And I'll close with that. Thank you again for the opportunity, and thanks for coming on this, and thanks for hosting this thing periodically. I look forward to the next one.
Hey, sir, thanks very much. We're in the essence of time. If you have a question, drop it in the chat, or if you have a comment that you want to make, you can throw that in there too. I'm hoping Jim Sims can get on and can unmute to just give you a really brief update on the retiree caucus that we're going to do. Just a note about Jim Sims, CW5 retired. I hope you're sensing a trend here. There's a lot of retirees in very key places in this organization, but we're going to have a deal this year. The retired caucus is going to be off. Retired separated caucus will be offsite again. It's a very short bus ride from where we're at over to the Harley-Davidson Museum. We're trying to make these things inviting to be a part of, both from the perspective of the agenda and what we're going to cover, but we also want you to have some fun and enjoy the communities that we're in and those kind of things. So, and Jim Sims, who has hosted conferences in his home state of Kentucky and done just a fabulous job, has stepped up and been helping with the planning and execution of the general conference. He sits on the committee with me and a bunch of other folks. April's joining us now as the retired rep on that committee, and we're trying to do some great things and make some changes and make it more attractive to the people that we're trying to get to come, the new people, and we're trying to, but still honor the legacy of where that conference has come from. So Jim Sims, if you're on, I'd ask you to jump on and just talk about the retired separated caucus meeting if you're available.
All right, sir. I think can you hear me, sir? I hope it's working.
Yep, we're good to go. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Milwaukee, as far as the retired caucus is at the Harley-Davidson Museum. That's completely laid on. You'll have transportation to and from and lunch served there. You'll conduct your meeting as usual. There'll also be an opportunity where it'll be open longer, but the transportation will be kind of set, but you'll be able to stay longer than that. They have everything in place. As those who attended the conference there in Milwaukee years back, when we went to the Harley-Davidson Museum for the governor's reception, if you remember what that's like, it's going to be the same deal. I mean, it's a great opportunity. I couldn't believe it wasn't one of the big events there again anyway for everyone to see it, because that's a big draw for Milwaukee. Anyway, as far as the retiree, everything's set. Those guys have done a great job. Just an update overall on the conference is going well. All the venues are contracted. Food's almost all laid on for all of them. They're finalizing the transportation requirements with the transportation company they selected. We have over 300 exhibitors that'll be on the floor this year. As Bobby mentioned earlier, we know input as far as about of our income. The conference is a big part of that. Right now, we're looking at the opportunity to bring in over 1.9 million exhibitor sales right now is where we're at. So, of course, there'll be some cancellations there and things like that, but we should come out with a pretty good deal on the conference overall. However, everyone got to remember something like this: is prices are going up. It costs more to go to these places, and these exhibitors, they try to get as much as they can out of their money for what they put in. So be sure and go by those exhibit booths and tell them thank them for coming, and any way they can support them, and and their efforts to, their products that they're trying to get into the military. Also, the website, NGAUS website, it's right now contains all the information you would need about the conference. It has a schedule up there. And actually, on the schedule, it's updated pretty often, but there's also links out there to the exhibit hall and to the exhibitors. And Rich and his group, they're doing a great job of keeping that up to date. Also, want to remind everyone that registration is kind of slow right now, but it usually picks up in July. However, if you haven't registered and you're planning on going, register. That's how the numbers come up with the host state, can calculate how many meals they're going to have, things like that. Also for transportation. Not only on that, is if you have not reserved your hotel room through your state or list or as a distinguished guest, LDL, you need to be doing that. 30 June, the host states, not the host state, but the state associations will lose control of those hotel rooms. So if you haven't got through the host state, your state, your association, and got your hotel room, you need to get it for June 30th. After that, they'll lose the access to their room block pretty much, and you might not end up in the state you want to be staying with. A lot of you, just for general information, you know how the process for selecting a conference works and location. There's a bid put in. Some people think that, okay, we're only working 25 conference 2025. We're currently as General McGinn, everyone knows about how this whole system works, but just for those that don't, we're actually planning 5 conferences at one time. Right now, we're already planning 2029. And 3030 is it'll be a bid to come out before long, and we'll look at that. So we're constantly looking out forward, trying to always make sure we got different places to go to and better speakers, and how we can make it, as Mike said there, and so General McGinn, we're trying to reshape this where everyone enjoys it. There's something there for everyone. On the exhibit floor, I think you'll start seeing that it's different. You'll start seeing sections for sports, sections for health and wellness, things like that. So overall, General Conference Committee is doing a great job. Leadership, Mike's leading it there, and they say he come through some of the heartaches and discussions we had when it's a very, very vocal group. So there's a lot of good information that comes out of that, and NGAUS staff listens to it. It's being applied. So we'll continue to grow and have great conferences in the future. Thank you, Mike.
Hey, Jim, thanks again. Just, I can't say enough about the work that you've done to help us elevate this. And we have great people in place right now to try to continue to elevate the conference and make it something that people really want to be part of and get excited about. Put it on your calendars right now. So it's Sunday, August 24th, 11:30 to 2. That's the Retired Separated Caucus. That's at the museum. There's going to be a $5 charge this year, which is minimal. In fact, I think April said if you're nice to her, she'd pay that for you. I don't know. Maybe I could be misspeaking. I'm not sure. But we're excited about it. And we've got a person on here, so Colonel, I'll probably mess up their last name, sir, but Washuspak from Louisiana, and he retired in 1998, still active. Retired in 1998 after 44 years of service in uniform. In 2025, still active on this call today, and would love to see it done quarterly. So that's our plan, is to do this quarterly. And before we get done here, we're going to tell you when our next one is. So can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you being on here and all the updates we're getting. I'm going to turn it over to Major General Vogel now to take over the agenda.
All right, thanks, Mike, and thank you, Jim. Now we're going to go ahead and open the floor to take any questions. I just wanted to see if anybody had anything they wanted to bring up, any questions you might have. Or we are running out of time here, but I didn't want to move on before giving a chance for anything that might be burning or anything that we wanted to touch on before we move on to the upcoming year schedule and move on to closing. I'm looking around here. There's quite a few folks on the line, so we just want to see if I have any open hands or if there's anything in the chat. All right, I'm looking here. All right, I see no questions. I just wanted to take a minute here to give you just the events meeting schedule for the rest of the year. Mike already touched the NGAUS conference dates. It's going to be a great one. We're really excited, and you got a little taste of what to expect. And as mentioned, we are going to try very hard to make sure that we keep these summits, these virtual summits, on the regular once a quarter. So we went ahead and scheduled the next one for November 20th. Please write it down, November 20th at 4 p.m., same time. We're going to go ahead and set that one up to go ahead and recap the NGAUS conference, and we'll plan and something else, another content that will be of interest to you all. Hopefully we can talk a little bit about that at the conference as well. But November 20th at 4 p.m., and at that meeting, we'll plan the next one as well. So with that, I want to just ask Frank, do you have anything else you wanted to hit before we move on? Nothing heard?
I'm sorry, I was trying to get the mute button.
Okay.
Just, yeah, one alibi that we're looking at, and this is a little premature, I guess, but we're going to make a recommendation this tomorrow to the Finance Committee about a new association management software. Provided it gets through our governance process, we'll be transitioning to that. And the reason I bring that up, because it's got phenomenal capability, and you can establish all these different communities. So this could be its own community within that software, and just have a platform. So I just throw that out there. Stay tuned to that. As long as it gets through our governance process, we're hopeful it will, then we'll be executing that actually next year. So I'll just throw that out as a teaser. But I've got nothing else, standing by for questions.
All right, very good. And I see John. John, you got a question?
No question. Just a quick alibi on a legislative update that it's not a legislative update, it's a policy update that came from legislation, and that is it's not official yet, but it has been approved by OSD PNR, and it's going down to Army HRC. And this is in reference to mobilization under 12304 Bravo. They've approved to allow folks to buy back or buy down their retirement age. Anybody that was mobilized under 12304 Bravo. I know there's quite a few folks out in the community that have been concerned about that. So the policy has been approved at the OSD PNR level. It's being pushed down through Army to HRC, and they should have execution or implementation guidance out soon.
Very good. Thanks, John. That's great news. All right. How about Bobby or Maria? Do you have any reattacks, anything you'd like to revisit before we close up today?
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks to everyone for chiming in where you did, and we'd love to continue to get your feedback. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you both. That was great. We appreciate it, and started some good conversations for Mike and I. And Mike, how about you? Anything that you'd like to readdress before we close up tonight?
Nope, I'm good. April, I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. It was great to join you today. I'm excited to be a part of this group, and we appreciate you. We'll look forward to seeing you all in August. Thanks again for joining us.